everybody from coming to show up tonight. And Bruce, thank you for joining the panel. Orange Chat, thank you for joining. And let's see who's in the chat right now. Sorry we were a little bit late. We were trying to discuss of whether or not we should show certain things. We're going to be talking about Tucker Carlson's interview with Alex Jones and the big stuff that he unloaded. And a few other things that I was brought to light afterward, after I saw that started connecting in my mind about some other things that were said that I put with this interview. And we'll see what happens with that. But I wanted to say thank you to the Grumpy Old Ninja. And let's see, put it up there for a second. Hello, thank you for coming. And then 6 Nations, 31 Kings, thank you for showing up. Appreciate it. And then Soy-Based Jeremy, thank you. Let's see if there's anybody else in here. Papa Cotton, thank you for coming. Appreciate it. Okay, that's everybody. So I'm going to start it already in some, because at the very beginning it's just him thanking him for joining the show and how he didn't believe it, all his stuff, and he really didn't pay that much attention to him because of some of the things that he had talked about in his past until he got deplatformed. And once he got deplatformed, that's when he started looking at him a little more, because he thought it was interesting how they were going so hard at somebody for some of the stuff that he said, and he couldn't understand why the stupid stuff that he was saying, and how come it was so bad that they felt they had to totally take everything from him to shut him up. And then so that's the reason why Tucker started investigating Alex Jones and decided to do this interview, because he was shocked by the way these other people were deplatforming him, and then they take him to court and pretty much take everything from him, millions. It's like $100 million that he's expected to pay. I don't know who, because except the government, I guess, that's who's going to have to pay the money to. I don't know that much about it. I didn't listen to too much about what happened when he went to court and stuff like that. So I'm going to start the interview, unless one of you guys would like to say something about what you already know. Bruce, do you want to say anything before I start it?
I've been a fan of Alex Jones for many years, many years. And I don't try to say things like, as a longtime Alex Jones listener, I don't want to say that. I want to say I find him to be a breath of fresh air. Typically, he gets deplatformed. He gets pulled off of social media for the same reason that some of your favorite YouTubers or TikTokers. He might be over the target, per se. And that's the only time that you ever really receive flack, is when you're right over the fucking target. And they're like, no, don't be telling the truth about us. Get out of here. You have no idea. You have to trust the science. And they say stupid shit like that. And that's been Jones's entire livelihood. The entire time since he's came out with the tape from the Bohemian Grove. That's all it's been. You can't talk about this. Can't talk about that. So
they
Jones
talk
has
about
done a lot of good.
The Bohemian Grove stuff.
Since 97, I believe.
So is there anything you'd like to say, Orange Hat, before I start this? And if anything's said that you want me to pause it, you just tell me and I'll pause it, and then we can talk about it. And anybody in the chat, if you bring up something or want us to discuss it that you hear on this interview, that you haven't seen it, please say something in the chat. And will you guys help me try to keep an eye on the chat so that we can...
We'll try to keep an eye on it.
Okay.
Who do we have as Wrench tonight? Do we got Grumpy?
Let's see. Trying to look for sure. We got Papa Cotton. He's a ranch, and Six Nations is a ranch.
Okay.
So
we got two of the best guys right there. And then
we got two
I think,
good
Grumpy.
guys in case we get a nut job in here tonight.
Mhm.
But anyone that wants me to stop, just you could let me know, and I'll try to make sure we stop it so we can talk about it or discuss it a little bit, because this has got so much information in it. And I want to share the links to the other two things that I really think you should watch, because they go right with it. The MK Ultra stuff that Bobby Kennedy exposed goes along with the whole thing about what happened to Fauci and why he left the country. And when Richard Nixon from years ago stopped the gain of function stuff that was going on when it came to biolabs and stuff like that, and the technology that they were stocking up on. And he was afraid that, yeah, we might have it, but what happens if somebody else on the other side gets it and they use it against us? So he wanted it all destroyed. But we had a 3-letter agency that decided to take it and run, which went to Wuhan labs and to the Ukraine with a lot of it. So all of this stuff connects if you listen to the whole interview. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on that.
Let's party.
Yeah, here we go. I'm going to get it big again. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to start it. This is in 18 or 19 minutes in.
Do you want to start it further on where we were watching it, or no?
I want to, but it's doing this. Oh, I have to start
Okay,
at
so
the
reload
very
your
beginning.
Twitter.
Reload it and see if it'll work.
Yeah,
Okay.
reload your Twitter.
I'm reloading it, and I have to start over again. See?
Okay, we'll move the
Censored
bar
man
up to
in
the
the English language.
the halfway
But
part,
honestly, when you get him in
or
front of
wherever you want to start again. But
an outhouse in the woods,
It's remarkable. How does he do this?
Best
We're guessing.
Call the White House and tell the White House we for events to get Americans to give up their rights.
Okay, hold
An
on.
operational
I'll get back
awareness
to where we
outside
were.
of their compartmentalization. And so
you get really good at this,
Congratulating
Janet,
Hamas.
and I'll teach you how to paint miniatures.
that just killed
I'm
publishing their own
trying.
newspaper. I don't support the KKK. I think they're a joke. But if you take
Right here,
their
it's
rights,
good.
you're taking everybody's.
Is
But
that
they're
good?
not
Okay,
even
this is
taking the
20
rights of
minutes
those
in.
people to post
Yeah, that's fine.
because they create fear and they get the ADL more funding. But if they can target an Alex Jones or an Elon Musk or a Tucker Carlson,
Hey, Brandy.
then they're going after the real populist leaders.
But when I
that are
have
bringing
this
America
open, I
together.
can't see
And so
the
what the
chat
left
at
wants
all.
is to divide us all according to
You guys
race.
are gonna have to read it.
And
Wrenches,
come out and
Jens,
say
depending
fundamentally with
upon
critical race
you,
theory
if
that
you need us,
inherently being white
get hold
is
of me or
bad,
Orange Chat. We
and
can
teaching
see you.
5-year-old white children
Janet's
they're inherently
blind.
bad because they're white. That is wounding their brains and really creating racial division.
Why do people put up with that? I don't understand why. I mean, that's just, if you had told me 20 years ago, and I grew up in a world where judging people on the basis of their skin color was totally immoral, and I still believe that. But if you told me 20 years ago that we were going to live in a world where people get on TV and just be like, I hate white people, they're bad. No, it's totally fine. Like, why do people put up with that? Like, there should be zero tolerance for that. I don't get it.
The Democratic Party founded the KKK. And when the majority were whites in the South in some areas, they played the race card for political power. Now that the majority in most areas are not white, they're playing
Ruben's
the
here,
good old-fashioned
Janet.
race card
Okay.
of tell whites,
Thank you.
stand down, let people take over your society, your culture, give up your culture. It's embarrassing to be white. And then now it's flat out bad to be white. And the left's trying to convert all these minority groups that are now the majority in most areas into race-based systems because that is a very effective
But
system.
why do people put up with that? I mean, like, if they were doing that to Malaysians or Filipinos or Hondurans, I would say you can't do that. You're not allowed to attack people on the basis of their race. I'm sorry, not in a country like this, because the country will fall apart and it's immoral.
I totally agree.
But nobody says anything.
Well,
I don't get it.
The reason they've done it is most of the enforcers of this are white liberal women, 45 or older, not
Fair.
it's just a fact, and they're cucked husbands. And so to them,
Can I just say that the phrase cucked husbands is the best?
it really is true. So if you get around these white liberals, they live in the whitest areas. They're totally scared of anybody with brown skin, but they virtue signal constantly and then say, yes, the white people are bad. You know, the white people are evil. And, you know, these, I mean, I've even seen white people sit there and say, yeah, it's time to deal with these crackers. and they're a white person saying that. So
From Jackson Hole or Nantucket or Aspen or Bethesda, the whitest places in America. So shouldn't there be a law? Super simple. If you've got a BLM sign in your yard, you should be required to live in Gary, Indiana, or Baltimore. Like there, you should not be anywhere near Jackson, Wyoming.
you should be made to live in East St. Louis.
I totally
You
agree.
should be made to live in Detroit.
Yes.
But of course, they've done the studies, they've looked at statistics. It's not just here, it's in Europe and it's in the UK, like in London. The liberal areas are like 99% white.
Oh, I noticed.
Okay. And there's a lot of rich people in London that aren't white, but they're not even in that area. They are the most insular group. And then they point at white Christian culture and society that actually outlawed slavery in most of the world, was the vanguard of stopping it. And then they don't point at China, which is the most homogeneous racist group in the world.
It's an ethno-state. It's Han Chinese, period.
Well, they teach us, on their news, that we are going to have Chinese superiority. We are the Chinese supremacist. Xi Jinping admires Hitler. He is literally following a race-based operation that is taking the world over, that owns the majority of Hollywood, that's paid off the Democratic Party. And if you look at all these anti-white shows that you see funded in Hollywood, almost all of it has majority literal communist Chinese government backing that is funding this. So it's real simple. China looks in and sees this diverse culture, and they say, we're going to use that to split the country up and balkanize it. And that's what they've done. And so communist China, along with the Southern Poverty Law Center and the ADL and all these groups, see America's weakness. And they're literally coming in saying white people are inherently bad because of the color of their skin. They inherently have cheated people. They've hurt people. White people invented racism. None of that's true. It's really just tribalism.
I'll pause it, Janet.
And
Then
they
I mean, how can we be from 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when you were having damn near racial harmony? We had shows like In Living Color come out in 89 and 90 that had a really good blend of good comedy with a talented mix of majority black comics and comedians on there.
yeah,
Jim Carrey was the outlier.
Richard
And,
Pryor.
Who?
We had Richard Pryor.
Yeah,
as
we
a
had Richard Pryor still, but I mean, he was not in good shape in the early
Eddie
90s.
Murphy. I know, but we had Eddie Murphy. We had a whole bunches of singers, actors, stand-up comedians, all black or of different races. I don't remember. It's like I said, I just didn't think it was as bad as what people were making. Yeah, there was crime in the big cities, but there were gangs. I didn't hear about it just being all black people. Or all Hispanics. It was gangs, gang fights. And I saw white people mixed in the gangs, So, I don't know. But to me, I never really noticed that much racism until
Obama?
Yeah, Obama helped a lot of it, because down in New Orleans, it's a huge melting pot of everybody. Every skin color, every hair color, tattooed people. We had people wearing tutus walking down the street. We had people with jeans. We had mini skirts. We had go-go boots, cowboys. I mean, and everybody was seen fine. Yeah, you got crime. You're going to have cars getting broken into and other crime like you have in every big city. But I didn't see attacks on a daily basis. I didn't see things like this Palestinian protest, and then Black Lives Matter. And then what was that back before Black Lives Matter? There was these other people that were doing these protests, and Susan Sarandon would go to them and stuff before the Pussy Hats.
No, you had the Pussy Hat. Oh, before Pussy Hat.
Yeah, before Pussy Hats, there was another one. It was like Black Lives Matter, or the other one, Antifa. It was like Antifa, but it was before Antifa. And they were having.
I can't remember what they're called.
Yeah, but you know what I'm
some
talking about.
And Ruben's back.
Of Marxist bullshit.
Yeah, it was some kind of Marxist group. But to me,
It was Occupy Wall Street.
yeah, Occupy
that
Wall
was it.
Street.
Don't,
That's all
again, I saw this coming a long time ago. If it's not
This is all the same people. It's funded by the same people, which is probably Soros. Is probably
it is Soros. It's Soros.
Okay,
Again, it's all part of the plan, and it's Obama. They put
stuff
Obama in.
Stuff's coming out about Taylor Swift, that most of her whole career has been sponsored by George
Yeah.
Soros.
Yeah, because it's every Disney character. It's the perversion of the casting couch. They
Mhm.
go to Rachel Zegler, they go to Taylor Swift, they go to Britney Spears, they go to these people who are supposedly popular, and they basically promise them it's basically like a vampire telling somebody that yeah, you do what we say and you'll become a vampire too. It's the same thing. It's the same principle. They're using this. They're using power and money to control people, and it's sick. It's sickening, completely. And I'm done of it. 95% of people are idiots. They're asleep, and I'm done with them.
So do you want me to go ahead and start it again now?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Organize all these other groups into race-based groups to then unify them under the Democratic Party to attack who is left that tends to be more conservative, and that is some white people in this country. Though they're panicking because more and more blacks are voting Republican, more and more Hispanics are voting Republican. They're starting to figure this out. So now they're in panic mode to bring in totally disenfranchised third world populations who are refugees from the multi-year lockdowns in Africa, Latin America, and Asia and the Middle East. They then bring them to UN camps, brainwash them, then bring them to our border, brainwash them more, then send them into the United States, and then literally hold them for years at facilities while they're indoctrinated to be this new political underclass that's then going to be turned loose on America. And that's why you see Democrats giving illegal aliens the right to vote in their cities, giving them driver's license. That's why you see them passing laws. They can be police officers. So they are importing a new enforcement class against the American people. And they're setting it up along racial lines, not us. They're making it racial, just like Hitler made what he did racial. So it's the left and the think tanks and the communist Chinese that look at the U.S. and have seen our weakness as race, and they are exacerbating it.
So I don't understand. So you're from Texas. You grew up in Texas. Your family's been there a long time. Texas is changing really fast. It's dirty, for one thing, I noticed, because physically dirty, garbage on the side of the road. I never have seen that in Texas before. So your governor could have stopped that. He commands the Texas National Guard, and he didn't. And I feel like that makes him a traitor to the country, but what am I missing?
Well, I mean, Governor Abbott is, on a scale of 1 to 10, the best kind of Republican governor is a 10, and the worst is, say, a 1. And like the Illinois, it's a so-called Republican, that's really a Democrat. I would put Greg Abbott as about a 5. The state is overwhelmed. There isn't really a state mechanism. It's federal to kick people back and deport them. So they have put up barbed wire. They have tried to stop people. They have tried, but then they have to hand them over to the feds who release them.
But why not just say the feds are committing a crime? They're committing a crime. This is not allowed under laws passed by the Congress. In a democracy, the Congress passed laws. And so you've got criminals running the country. The Biden administration is criminal, which is true. And we're not playing along. And like, if you don't like it, come do something about it. Meanwhile, every able-bodied man with a black rifle assemble at the border, and we're just going to stop this and save the country. I don't understand. Like, that's not hard. What am I missing?
No, I think you're absolutely right. In fact, what the deep state fears would be a coalition of good governors, good attorney generals, giving them the findings and the rulings that they could indeed do that, and then declaring emergencies in the states and having a coalition of the states come in and do this, and then instruct local police and everybody else to not have sanctuary cities. But the problem is, if you're in Texas, every single city, Houston, San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth,
Not
are
really
Democrat
true.
Party run.
Fort Worth is not completely blue.
Not yet, but
It's
on
more
its way
blue
there.
than what it's ever been. I'll say that much. But it's very much a purple city.
But
San
why
Antonio
can't-
is much more blue than I remember it.
Why can't we just pull away from the union? Why can't we just say, this is it? We've gone too far. Have these states pull away from the union? I think we're like,
I can explain why.
Why?
I have covered this extensively.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why is because of federal funding. One, if you're a border state like Texas, sure, you can last for a while because then you can open up trade with other countries that are not border states. However, or countries that are along your border and other countries for import-export. However, if you are not a border state, take any state that's not a border state.
Arkansas.
All right, take Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
Federal government decides to put a no-fly zone around the entire border of Arkansas. That state is now choked off and will not survive for more than what it's.
now-
It will. It will.
The only
No,
thing,
well,
the
Yes,
only
it
thing is
will.
Arkansas would work if it's pulled away, just like Texas and Oklahoma. There's 3 states
You
right
would
there.
have to have
3
multiple states to do that. If
That's
you
what
are
I'm
not
saying.
a border state,
And you do.
the government
13 states pull away from the union. We go together and we work together.
yeah, and then
Take care of each other.
you'll just end up with another freaking war.
Good.
One
And
that
that's what we're headed into.
no,
Let it
that's
happen.
not good because
Yes, it
here's
is.
the
It's
thing.
good.
Let me
Fuck it up.
explain. Let me explain. One, you now have a fledgling nation that you are just starting. Your
Mhm.
economy is right now compared to the one you just broke off of for shit. You have not established any relations with any other countries. You have not established any sort of economy. And so when the United States, who is now basically going to say, okay, we're not going to recognize their sovereignty, they'll outlaw everybody in those states.
Yep.
And they will wipe them out. It will
How?
be a prolonged conflict,
How will they wipe
but
us out?
eventually the United States that those states broke off from will eventually win. It is not
Okay.
a good idea to
How are they going to
secede.
do that? How are the other states going to come to Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Florida, all the states that come together that pull
You think
away?
that you think that with Democrats in control, they are not above using nukes?
I just told you, you said that you would stay in your house and you would fight and they would not be able to get you, but they will. That's exactly what I was trying to
Oh, I'm
say.
not saying that they wouldn't. I am
I
saying,
am
or
not
that's
saying
a
that.
different,
They're not going
or that is a different topic. I'm
they
talking
have
about
to
the
do
secession topic.
Wait us out. Wait us out. Just like I said, they wait us out till we have no more ammo and we have no means of making more
In
bullets.
the case of secession, it's a totally different mindset because one, they aren't, or imagine a secession. The United States then looks completely weak on the
Mhm.
global stage.
Good.
It would be an embarrassment to the U.S. government.
We're already
The
embarrassed.
government would retaliate against those seceding states. And like I said, they are not above dropping nukes. We have freaking politicians that want to drop nukes on our population already. We have freaking Swalwell and we have freaking Biden. You think for one moment when they show, or when a state, or even groups of state for that matter, secede, that they are going to be like, okay, you're no longer, or you've lost every single citizenship. And what about all the people who are in those states that don't want to secede? This is not a
They would be
thought
able
out
to move out. They'd
argument.
be able to leave the state, just like people left
Then
California.
how and what if they can't afford to move? Who's going to pay for them to get out? You would have to allow the ruling government
Lots of excuses.
of those who do not want to leave. You would have to allow them
Well, then
to go
stay.
into the states. Therefore, you have already allowed an invading force in, and
No,
there
what
you
would have
allow
to do is
conflict.
take school buses, put everybody in them that doesn't want to stay, and drive them over the border, just like we should be doing with driving people
They
that are
would get, or
illegally-
they wouldn't want. What if they don't want to give up their homes? You're saying
What
that the
choice
seceding
they have?
states would then just
So
what?
what- I know, but the thing is, our forefathers set it up at the beginning of the Constitution to be able to secede from the Union. So anything that's in those papers is what you would have to do and how you would do it. So
I would
I'm
love to, or
sure-
that was way back 250 years ago. We
Yeah, I
are
know.
at a point right now where secession is not a viable path.
That's
Well,
weakness.
I don't.
No, that's not weakness.
Yes,
That's
it is.
fact.
It is. It's weakness. I'm done.
I think that if a state doesn't want to have anything to do, because we each have our own
You're afraid. You're scared.
constitutions. We have
No,
our own
dude.
constitutions.
One thing right now, I am not scared. I'm simply looking at it from all possible angles. And what I am seeing right now, like I said, say one border state wanted to secede, no other state was with it, or
Then they would-
a non-border state.
Don't you
Federal
have to have
government
at least
Easily
13
cordon off
states?
that state.
But yeah, but don't we have to
1/3.
have at least 13 states or something like that to
Convention
be able
states
to have
requires
them
like
be able to
No,
legally?
the 13 That
before
13 state
before
thing is just
before
a
any
reference
of
to the
this
13
happens,
colonies.
the convention of states is more likely going to occur, and
That's what
before
I'm
that,
saying.
and before that,
How many
the
states do we
election
have to have?
2024. So the way things are, the way things have to go first. 2024 election is most very critical, and then right after that, within the next 6 years after that, you have the 2030 census realignment. Things will change because people will be migrating. You're going to have less people in New York, less people in Illinois, less people in California, and things will change by then. Now, that's on the grand scale of the whole timeline. However, what they are going to do is, let's say Biden wins, let's say Trump wins, whoever it is, they're going to crash the economy. Everything's built up so that in 2025, whoever is in there, they're going to release that black swan event. It's going to happen. It won't happen next year. Things will escalate. But as soon as a new president's in, let's say it is Trump, then they will unleash hell. The IMF, the WEF, everybody, the
World Economic Forum.
Forum, yeah, all of them are going to just say, okay, Bretton Woods, let's get rid of it. Boom, done. And they're going to collapse the American economy. They're going to make the dollar go away, and then they're going to blame Trump, and that's it. Or
if you look at what all of you have just said about if we secede, right? There's not going to be, the states won't make it. Why? Because we've become so dependent on our federal government to pay for everything. It's exactly what the federal government wants. They wanted to weaken every single state to where you have to have the government tit or you can't survive.
correct.
Now, the difference was under Trump, he was trying to bring more jobs here and stop putting so much out to where we would be self-sufficient. We had enough farmers to grow the food we needed. We had enough cattle to feed people. We had enough chickens to have eggs. We had enough of everything. We were making our own medical supplies. We were drilling our own oil. We were refining our own gas. We were doing all these things more and more and more to where people were getting richer. People were making more money. People were being able to buy their own homes, things like that, which is now almost completely gone again because everybody spent every dime they had in their savings and more, and then some, putting it on credit and things like that because of the whole COVID thing, the shutdown. And the government says, we'll send you $2,000. We'll do this. We'll do that for you to put you on the tit. So when you're sucking on the government tit, you're going to say, I don't want to live on my tit. I don't want to give up. So I'm just going to stay in my snuggly space and suck my tit. So I don't have to worry about anybody taking care of me.
And that's 99% of everybody. That's
okay,
what
there you
Thing
go.
is, another thing that people aren't realizing when it comes or thinking about when it comes to a secession.
Mm-hmm.
All right, say that there's secession, and if a conflict breaks out, well, now the whole world is looking at a conflict in the United States. Bingo! China now sees its opportunity. They start to invade. Russia sees an opportunity. They start to invade through Alaska. You've just started a world war if a secession happens. Secession would be suicide to the United States.
This is a pointless conversation. Secession's not going to happen yet. Like I said, that's like the 10th step.
It's a process, but it still ends with the same result: the death of the United States completely.
Good.
Well,
No, not good, because we'd all be dead.
Good.
As soon as we secede,
Get rid of everybody.
If everybody starts to secede,
we go away.
The United States
food stamps
because it's no longer united. Okay, so we kill ourselves, and that's what I've been trying to say in all these different shows, is that this government that we have right now, it's working with the WEF and wanting a one world government. This is the beginning of the end. Okay. That's why we, it's like I'm always saying, have to stay and fight together and take back our country, because this government wants it to collapse. They're trying to collapse the money. They're collapsing the people. They're putting all of us at war with each other, just like what he was saying earlier that we got to watch part of it already, is the fact that using us to take each other out, so the government doesn't have to do it at all. All they
And
got to
that's
do
why,
is
and that's exactly what Obama did.
Global.
That was what Obama did. They put Obama in to basically break everybody, to transform America, and they're doing it. Everybody.
remember what Obama said? We are no longer a Christian nation.
Yeah.
God,
Well,
God,
that's the other fallacy.
that-
That's the other side of the equation.
But no,
When you have these-
he said that to break people. Just like what
Yes.
Alex Jones was saying. When you take away faith and you take away everyone's thought that they can actually have their own home and their own family and have freedom to have a job that they want, to take care of their families, and to have a wife and kids and husbands all love each other, and family units and grandparents and uncles and cousins and everybody all working together to help each other be successful, where the children are now a little more successful than the last parents, and then their kids are more successful, like it was years ago, right? Once all the people feel like that will never happen, they're going to take everything from us and force us to live in these little towns, little bitty shacks. We will own nothing and be happy, eat bugs, have all that stuff.
If you want that, then go ahead, go for it. That's
but what I
stupid.
mean is that's what this government is doing. It's trying to program everyone to believe that you can have nothing.
I'm
That
pretty
you
okay
can't own
with
anything.
making
No, you
sure
don't.
the
No, you
elite
don't. No, you
suffer.
don't. No, not that. Here, you got it a little wrong. You don't need anything. There are articles now that just came out. There was an article that, like, you don't need a car anymore. We're gonna have. And they made it so nice that they said you're gonna have automatic cars, and they're gonna come to you. You can go and get anything you want. You need to you just it's fine. No, I don't know that they're making it nice. They're making it sound like it's very.
For some, see, that's the whole thing. It's either you're dirt poor or you're rich. You're either an elite. They're getting rid of. They're completely.
That's what China's doing right now. China has
no
that.
middle class. You're either poor. You're a servant to the uppers. Period. That's it.
Yes.
That's the two classes. That's what this. That's what they're doing around the world. They're doing it in every single country.
But the way they've done it, the whole TikTok generation, the whole OnlyFans aspect of it, it's the whole idea. Basically, everyone is an influencer. They want you to influence. They want you to be a woman. They want all women to be on OnlyFans, collecting money from morons. And the men are just checking off on it by themselves. And there's no kids. We're running out of children. We are going to go away. Right now, the rate in the United States is like 1.6. But the birth rate needs to be around 2.1, 2.2, around there. I think Alex Jones has talked about that too. And that's what they're doing. They're depopulating. No more Italians. No more Japanese. They're going away.
Is overrun. The countries that are overrunning everyone else are not Christian. They're the opposite of Christian.
Yeah, but then don't bring that again. That's the other aspect of it. That's the other fallacy. Big government, big religion. Those are both the two evils.
But their religion believes women should have no rights, that women should be covered head to toe, and that they could cut your hands off if they think that you're stealing. All those different things. It's total control.
Same thing with Christians. They're just as bad.
That's your point of view. I'm using.
No, they are evil. They're just as evil.
This is my point of view.
I know, but they're just as evil.
And I'm a Christian, and I believe
that is your opinion. Let her speak.
But I have the right.
Opinion is fact.
Own my own home. I can have a job. I can wear makeup.
Hey,
I can
YouTube, let me post a fucking comment, you goddamn communist prick.
Oh, who are you talking to?
No. I'm trying to put a comment in the chat, and the fucking.
It's not letting you.
Whoever the Bolshevik is at YouTube, I'm only 2 days away, and I've got a 7-day vacation. Don't make me fill out the paperwork. I will fucking execute you on camera. I don't give a shit.
I don't know who you're talking to.
Well, whoever's not letting me post a fucking comment. All four just blocked me because I'm spreading hate against globalists and the elite.
Put it in the private chat. At least we'll get to see it.
Okay.
But I'm going to go ahead and start playing a little bit more of this.
I want to kill globalists and Bolsheviks.
So Texas is
if
almost
that's evil, okay, call me evil. I don't know.
California influx and all the other refugees from New York, many of them bring their leftist ideology with them, even though they're fleeing it. Like locusts, they fly to the next field. And so That's really the issue, is that the legislature is somewhat cucked, to use that word again. And I think the governor has been cucked. He certainly went along with lockdowns and masks more than really any other Republican governor. And so I do think Greg Abbott needs to do a better job. But I also wanted to list some of the things that the state is up against. But I'll say this. Austin fired a bunch of police and another third quit. Crime everywhere, homeless everywhere, trash everywhere, ruin the city like everywhere else they are.
You live there.
Absolutely. That's where my family's from. I've been there since high school, but I'm gonna have to leave soon because it's gotten more and more like Los Angeles every day. It's very sad to see it. People fleeing LA, like my friend Joe Rogan, it seems great to him because he went from a really, really bad situation into a bad situation. But if you've been there, you can see the decline. You can see how fast it is, and it's really, 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 really sad. And there are just illegal aliens everywhere, and refugees from the rest of the country all over the place. And you see really the economic decline of most of the mom and pop businesses and things. So the same rot we've seen all over the country. Austin was supposedly this big mecca and it was going to be so great. And now sadly it's falling apart. I mean, Tucker, you know the answer to all this. You do the best job of anybody with a true Americana populist breakdown. The ruling elites of the world, the Black Rocks, the State Streets, they're on record saying they don't want our consumer society. They don't want our capitalist society. It's bad, it's ugly, it's gross, but they're the biggest consumers compared to anybody else in the world. Their quote, carbon footprints are thousands of times bigger than the average person. Mm-hmm. Leonardo DiCaprio or Klaus Schwab literally have carbon footprints thousands of times bigger than the average poor working American, that they're telling you can't have a car or air conditioning. Remember, before Obama left office, he traveled to Latin America, to Africa, and the Middle East. And what did he tell them in speeches? The clips are famous. You can't have a car or air conditioning. The earth will overheat and burn up. While he's telling people that by the year 2017, like Al Gore said, we would have areas flooded on the coastal areas, while he bought a big house in Martha's Vineyard at 1 foot above sea level. And of course, it's still there and it hasn't flooded. I mean, his chef died there, he drowned, sadly, but no flooding inside the house, just the dead chef. So they're waging war against civilization and society to make us poor, to put us under siege, and to cut off our energy, make the cost of living impossible, to break our old system, to bring in something even worse. And that's the Cloward and Piven strategy that the Democratic Party has adopted. They've done the same thing in Europe. This is a plan. The central banks have unlimited money, but they can't buy all the infrastructure up because people aren't selling. So they've got to crush us and make people so poor that everybody's forced to sell their business, their intellectual property, their physical property, but more importantly, to turn over our bodies to them. We're a UN treaty that Biden right now is, that's what I call Biden is trying to ratify, would literally put our bodies under the control of the United Nations and our medical care policy under it. So
it's the pandemic
treaty.
Yeah.
So what this is really a breaking of our will, a demoralization. That's what the transgenderism is, and 2 men can have a baby, and puberty blockers, and castrating little boys, and cutting little girls' breasts off. They've got such hellish stuff coming in this designed global collapse to bring in their world government that they've got to just have all these horrors out there, hoping we just throw up our hands and run off to the countryside, which everybody's doing, and in a way that's good. But at the same time, then they've got full control.
Totally right.
And they're going to march out of the countryside next and dig us out.
So that's, I mean, you look at the White House press secretary, who can barely speak English, who's one of the stupidest people I've ever seen, and a transparent liar. You wouldn't hire her to run your copy machine.
She's a diversity hire, if there ever was a diversity hire.
Of her race or who she sleeps with. I think the whole point is she's so obviously repulsive that it makes you feel bad about the country to see her.
I mean, that's it. We're at a beautiful ball. It's prom night. Everybody's dressed great. There's wonderful food, big, delicious punch bowl. And then they say, what can we do? Well, just have Brian Stelter go take a dump right in that.
Yeah.
And then he's there laughing at you. They're all there laughing at you to make you feel small, to make you question reality. Why is everything so ugly? I mean, that's why they tell people, hey, you can be homeless anywhere. You can crap on the street, needles, throw your garbage everywhere. Drug dealers can sell you drugs. We're going to give the homeless all this government funding. Liberal groups come in and farm and milk each homeless person and skim a big cut of the money off the top. It's a crop, but then a cash crop. But then we see that and we think it's all over. There's nothing we can do to demoralize us and make us give up. And even though I'm conscious of this, even though I know this, it's still at a DNA level. I'm like, I got to go to the country. I got to get out of here. I've got to separate myself from this. But then when they release this toxic cultural poisonous gas, they push us out of those areas and they get the main infrastructure to then organize that, cut off the food and supplies to that group they have, and then tell them the reason you're doing bad is not BlackRock and the WF and Bill Gates. It's all those evil people in the countryside. They're all white supremacists and terrorists and racists. Let's go get them. Because the last group they don't control is rural people that are self-sufficient. And so I get going to the countryside, protecting your children. That's the holy grail. The problem is you got to have 1 foot in each. You got to go back and fight in the city for the infrastructure, for the government. You got to give people hope while also building a backup operation with farming and ranching and self-sufficiency. So that's why the WEF and the UN are coming in Ireland and in areas of Asia and in the Netherlands and saying by 2030, 80% of your cows have got to be dead. And they just banned like 30% this year in the Netherlands. And it didn't matter people were 80% against it in polls. It didn't matter. They sent the military in against the peaceful farmers that were just protesting, just like the peaceful truckers in Canada got brutally attacked. And so they're all WEF globalist alumni that the big banks on record brag. They've penetrated the cabinets, to quote Klaus Schwab. They put their operatives in to cut off our energy, demoralize us, release the hardened criminals, put the political activists in prison, continue to cut off the resources to make an angrier world. Klaus Schwab says, we're going to make the world collapse. We're going to have everybody turn against each other. We're going to blame the political classes that we own and control. And then when we're done, we'll bring in our new solution. But first, they have to demolish the cultures and societies that we had before with the fentanyl, with the open borders, with the demoralization, and then they bring in their next phase, which is a high-tech, cashless society, robot drone-controlled nightmare. More than half of the U.S. in their official UN maps that they've had for more than 25 years, they're in some of my first films, show half the U.S. off limits to humans. All cars will have to have GPS. Everybody by law will have to have a cell phone at all times.
All right, stop for a second.
Australia just did this last year.
Hold on.
You tried to push it through. And that's.
He's saying that the United Nations is going to enter the United States and take it over because of one world government and all. Mm-hmm. When our Constitution actually prevents that, it states that we are, or no foreign body is allowed to hold dominion over any American citizen. This was actually covered in an entertainment video of all things by Legal Eagle. As much as I think the guy is far left, when it comes to law, he's actually knows his stuff. The Sokovia Accords. This, just bear with me and just hear me out.
Who's going to
the Sokovia Accords from the MCU when during the Captain America Civil War? He actually went over that and found how it cannot be enforced due to being unconstitutional against the United States. If they try to enforce any doctrine over the United States that is against the Constitution, it is automatically null and void. Anything that, or technically, anything that violates the law of the land, which is our Constitution, automatically is null and void and cannot be enforced. So a lot of what he is saying is unenforceable.
Okay, but listen to my point of view of how I'm looking at that. Is just a simple person. You're in a house, you're in bed, you're asleep, your kids are in their room asleep, and a gang of people bust in the front and back doors. They come in, they pull you out of your bed, and they say, fix us some dinner. So, and they got guns pointing at you, so you cook for them. You feed them, take care of them, you let them take showers or whatever, because they're standing there with guns. Okay, so you let them.
They have to sleep sometime.
I know, but there's 5 of them and there's 4 of you. And you got 2 of them are kids. 2 of them are your kids. So you got you and your husband or you and your wife, right? So they can pretty much do whatever they want the whole time they're in your house. And there's nothing you can
And that
do.
would only be about 5 to 10 minutes after they take the first bite.
Okay, maybe. I don't know. But what I'm saying is during this time, you have no say because there's nobody backing you. There's nobody there to protect you in your home, even though you have a constitution. So what I'm trying to say is people are murdered and raped and killed and their houses taken from them. Their cars are stolen. All kinds of things happen to you on a daily basis. All of that goes against the Constitution. But unless you have a government that is going to protect the Constitution, it doesn't matter that you have a Constitution. Right now, do you honestly believe that if somebody came over and said, we're going to take all your shit to your house, we're going to take everything you own, we're going to take everything from this town with this government, do you think they'd actually give a shit that someone's trying to
If
come
the United Nations and if this government tried to invite the United Nations to have any sort of rule over our sovereignty, the people would stand against it, and they would actually fight against it.
What people? Tell me, show me the people that are going to stand up and stop them.
Anybody who owns a gun and believes in the Second Amendment.
I would, and you would, but I'm telling you right now, half of every single town that you go into Austin, go into some of these towns.
I want to go to Austin. I want it to collapse.
You go into my area in the state of New York, guess what? If anybody tried pulling that shit, they would find themselves completely outgunned.
I know, but I'm saying half those people in every single one of these cities are going to say, fuck you. I'm not dying for anybody else. They're going to get their shit.
And here's the thing. Once the fighting starts, and after they see enough blood spilt, the United Nations, that is, they'll actually say, yeah, this isn't working. We're pulling out, because they will not want a drawn out conflict. And the U.S. government, as stupid as they are right now with the brain dead Biden, they'll realize very quickly that, that sleeping giant that Japan woke up, you just woke it up, and we will not tolerate, because after we show the UN and their invading force what, we would automatically start going after the U.S. government, because the U.S. government has proven to be a traitor to the U.S. itself.
Yeah, but see,
they're no longer enforcing the Constitution. Believe it or not, the Declaration of Independence is a founding document, and it's enforceable as well.
Yeah, it should be. I would defend it with my life because I believe in it. But when you have half of America that doesn't give a shit about our flag,
it's not half; it's more like 30%, and we would definitely outnumber 30%. The thing is, what you don't.
How many of them are children? How many of them are elderly? And how many of them are handicapped? You see, the ones that want to fight. Okay, the ones who want to stay safe.
Janet, here's the thing. You're right. There's not going to be any clear battle lines drawn. But in this war, if this ever does, this is what's known as worst case scenario. And I'm going to tell it to you straight because I believe in being honest. If this happens, we will not stop with just government, because anybody who is perceived as staying out of it and not or going along with the government will be seen as on the side of the government, and they would be tracked down and killed too. That is the worst case scenario. I'm not saying I want that to happen, because I don't want it to happen. It means death for all. But I'm saying this right now. You say that it's like 50%. It's more like 30% of those people who are willing to stand with the government. That whole 81 thing was complete bullshit. And if the government really thinks that they stand a chance against us, they can use all the military artillery they want. They'd be killing their own if they did. And then those people who saw that their own and the people who were on the side of the government just got sacrificed by the government, they would turn on the government, and then they would go after the government. They would lose. This is a no-win situation.
I know, but everything you're saying, I agree with. Every single thing you said, because that is exactly what would happen. But remember what you said? If we were to secede and we did this, that we would be easily invaded, right? Well, during all this turmoil of us fighting our own government to protect what we believe is ours, which is our right to own our homes.
And that is why,
families,
or yes,
they're
they
gonna
would
come
also
in.
see the opportunity again.
They're gonna
And
be
that is
flooding
why
over
no
both
war
borders.
is going to be seen, except
what we
unless the last moment where we have no choice but to fight.
Mhm.
Now, if it does come down to the last or no choice but to fight, yes, chances are other armies will most likely try to invade. But here's the thing. At least we will have shown we are not going to tolerate anybody stepping into our land. And if you step into our land and try to take advantage of it while we are fighting our own government, you better be fucking prepared to have your own land nuked to hell and gone.
And
Any sort of war right now that involves the United States ends with the entire world dead.
yes, and I
Because
believe that
or MAD will be disregarded.
is the most important one right now. Every single person in our country should be fighting for the Second Amendment, because what happened in Australia, we can't afford to have happen. They
Happened in
handed
Australia,
over-
happened in New Zealand, happened
No,
in
I know
Canada.
that's one country that just handed over their weapons back to the government. Okay,
Now,
and
there
when-
is a different, or they do allow gun ownership there. I will say this: they do allow gun ownership, but it is heavily regulated.
yeah, and they have a half. They don't even have a third of the guns that we have in our country. Okay, because we have this Second Amendment. I really believe in my heart the reason we are so powerful right now as a country is because of our right to bear arms.
I mean,
And because every single British group that I talk to on Spaces, or any of these other groups from Ireland and Scotland, all of them, they all go on and on and on about how we're obsessed with guns. And that's why we have so many school shootings. And that's why we have this and why we have so much crime and all that. It's all because you and I own weapons. And then I have to go through the same thing. And every one of these things is, guess what? The ones that are committing these crimes are mostly, almost all of them, aren't supposed to have weapons because they got them illegally. The people have legal guns, aren't the ones committing the crimes. There'd be even more crimes if we, the legal ones, didn't have weapons. And I have to sit and explain that to them because that's how they view our country. That's why they're all willing to hand over their guns when the government comes to their house and says, give me your weapons. They do it because they think you and I, people that believe in the Second Amendment and protecting ourselves from our government. See, I'm more afraid of my government than I am of some jerk coming breaking in my house. I know how to handle my weapon, and I'm ready to use it. That guy doesn't scare me as much as them coming and just nuking my house, like you said, or using a drone to take out just my house, to kill everyone in my home by taking our power out and putting in poison gas or whatever. I don't know. That's what scares me more than any of the rest of the stuff. And that's sad because I never thought in my lifetime I would ever feel like that. You know what I mean?
oh, believe me, a lot of us feel the fear that things are getting worse and it might happen. And the truth is, a lot of the stuff, even with Trump, or if Trump gets elected, say Trump does get elected, it's still going to get worse before it gets better because honestly, even with Trump elected, it's not going to solve the problem because I have said this on numerous other occasions. The only way to fix the United States right now is to start with a Palpatine and to end with a Maximus. And if you know your movies, you know what I mean. You start with a Palpatine, you do declare a state of emergency, you do get emergency powers, you suspend the Constitution. And you say and you have to go dictator for a little bit under emergency powers. And then when I say you go out with a Maximus, that means you actually do give up your powers once the stability has been established. The thing is, myself, I'm actually willing to do it. And I'm actually willing to step down and do the jail time afterward, because I would say I'll step down and I'll do the jail time. But at least I can say that I actually got this country back on track. But the thing is, what they need to do, here's the best way to do it. One, you suspend you suspend the Constitution. 2, you wipe, or you're going to have to do a selective wiping out of certain individuals. 1, Black Lives Matter is now considered an absolute terrorist organization. No more funding. Anybody who identifies as Black Lives Matter, you will either be arrested or you will be executed. It is that simple. You resist, you're done. 2, Antifa. Anybody who identifies as Antifa, the same treatment. 3, anybody who is on death row or life sentences, guess what? Your life is now up. We're going to get rid of the overpopulation problem by opening up at least 30 to 40% of the jails and prisons, because that way, well, with all them, or nobody's willing to pay for them anymore, you know what? There you go. You just solve the overpopulation problem. 4, any state that does not start enforcing the law in their cities, either you have a week to, or no, you have 2 weeks to get your states back under control with the law or with law enforcement. Or we will pull your funding. We will defund your entire state. 4, once after a period of 8 years has happened, in which stability has been gained, in 8 years, if stability has been gained, I step down, and reinstitution of the Constitution is reenacted. So yeah, that is what's known as starting with Palpatine, ending with a Maximus. You would have to go tyrant in order to get this country back on track.
But I do understand what you're saying. The bad thing is that we have Hillary Clinton that's been saying it for 2 years, that they should round up all of the deplorables and put them in prisons and have executions. She's already been saying stuff like that about us, about me. That I'm one of them.
I've been saying the same shit about her and her miserable husband since Vince
But
Foster.
what I'm saying is, the scary thing is that I believe that that's about to happen. That we're going to have a government. We're going to be under martial law, but it's not going to be the people we want that's going to have us shut down. That's the scary part, because whatever you just said can happen on both sides.
Yes, it can.
So,
and unfortunately, it's going to require a lot, or like I said, it's going to get darker before it gets better.
I know it's going to. That's the scary part. That's what I'm trying to get people to get in the mindset to understand, that you're going to have to start fighting for what you want. Every person, not just me, not just you, and not just the army, and not just the people in the military or the politicians. It's going to be everyday people that are getting up, going to work, coming home, going to bed, getting up, going to work. Those people are the ones that are going to have to start fighting for every single thing they want, because if you don't, I don't see how we're going to survive if we don't start taking back what belongs to us already, which is our country. And I think all of you agree with me. It's just that we all are not agreeing on exactly how we're going to do it. But what scares me is that we have 2 sides. One side I think is better. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's better. And the other side, I'm petrified that they're going to be in charge.
Unit party, you got to be careful.
Yep.
It's the admitted global UN standardized plan where you don't leave your house without a cell phone. Every car is robot kill switch, GPS controlled. California is moving to ban all the quote classic cars. That's any car that doesn't have a digital ignition, and they admit it's for control. So if people think things are bad now, the straitjacket, the ball and chain is going on. It's all being militarily run. Our military is great men and women, but at the top, our military has been globalist, trained, New World Order people for at least 34 years.
Military.
They got almost every general, every person under their control.
Paper
That's why it
shufflers
came out in the UK,
politicians.
and Europe, and
all of it.
in Canada.
All of it.
You pull up the
The whole
headlines.
thing.
Defense Department purposely.
There's
scared
not a
the
whole
public
lot of them. If
into
we could bury
lockdowns,
3,000
masking,
globalists, do you imagine
inoculations.
how much freer we'd be?
Yeah, but look, it's Amazon. It's
My
Google. It's
My life
YouTube.
has not been improved by Amazon.
Shut down Parler. Just think about it. That group of 5 shut Parler down.
But again, you're pointing at the wrong thing. You're pointing at the wrong thing.
No, all of it works together. Those 5 companies, just like what he's been talking about, these big corporations that run everything, they're the ones that are in charge of everything, making all these decisions. Some people think it's all the Jews. Some people think it's all this group.
It's a public-private partnership.
Okay, but the thing is, it's these giant global corporations that want control of everything because they don't want to give up their control. So the only way to keep control is to stop anyone else from being able to have any control, right?
And all this happened 100 years ago.
It's been happening. It's been slowly happening, and it's starting to come to a head where more and more people are wising up to it, and we're starting to try to figure out a way to stop it from happening.
UK headline: British Ministry of Defense secretly brainwashed and terrorized public. Canada, same headline. They even let you know, oh, the military is here to do this, and now the CIA and Justice Department is there to help surveil the public to stop disinformation. And it turned out, of course, almost all that disinformation was true.
Always.
About everything. So we have to understand, our governments have been seized. The big corporations want to get rid of the American idea. Like, you got 50 acres and your house and a business and a farm, and you can take care of your family and you're independent. They have to destroy all that because the rest of the world aspires to that. Instead, they want 15-minute cities, central bank digital currencies. They want all of these systems that track and trace everything you do in the social credit scores. And the plan for the rest of the public, we're talking 99%, is 250 square foot coffin apartments, 5G bathing you in them, literally eating bug protein. And I told people 10 years ago they're going to push bugs on the public because I read it in their white papers. Now it's already in grocery stores all over the U.S., all over Europe. They're putting the cricket meal into the food, very toxic.
Undisclosed, yeah.
It's got chitin in it. Yeah, they'll just give it a number. It's got like a code. And you ask again, why would you do that? Because it's all about breaking our will. They don't want people to aspire to open, free societies. Yeah, there's a lot of waste, there's decadence, there's issues, but there's freedom. They want to train us to live on carbon rationing, food rationing, a very dystopic world. You'll own nothing, you'll have nothing, and you'll be happy. Now, these are quotes.
I have to say, I bet there are, I don't know how long into this we are, 30 minutes or something. I bet there are a lot of people watching who are thinking, holy smokes, I can't believe I'm agreeing with Alex Jones. I'm supposed to hate this guy. Like, where's the lie in what you just said? I'm not sucking up. I'm sincere. Like, I'm listening to this, and even myself, I'm thinking, I can't believe I'm nodding along to Alex Jones and being like, you're absolutely right.
Oz.
Where are you wrong?
Hold on.
Well, I just hope people realize that we're all under the gun.
Okay.
Talking about all this stuff that's basically ending capitalism, all it will take is any well-funded capitalist, Vivek Ramaswamy, or anyone like that with enough money to sue the entity that is doing that, which in this case would be the United States, for violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act.
Mm-hmm.
Because Sherman Antitrust Act, in simple terms, you're not allowed to disrupt a free market capitalist system in the United States. Anybody who does or who tries that is in violation of federal law.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, all it takes is dredging that right up to the Supreme Court. You have enough money to do it. Guess what? Laws or Congress would then be forced to freaking act. Right now, we have a majority in Congress that would then start holding them accountable. And if Biden did try to bring in an anti-capitalist system like that, he would or the people would also revolt as well. They do not realize that, or if people actually realized, we have more power than the government wants you to know. The second that Biden violated the Constitution by pushing his anti-gun laws, he violated his oath of office. Technically, we don't need Congress to impeach his ass. All it takes
You
is
say impeach like so politely.
that is or I know that impeachment is simply a formal complaint and not.
Mhm.
But or what I mean is that instead of impeachment, all it will take is over what 80 million, 90 million people to show up in DC and declare you're no longer fit. Get the fuck out of the White House.
Yeah, but look what happened to the people that just went there for January 6th. They're all in prison, and they've been
That's
in
all,
prison.
or that was all of
Schroeder
what,
got up,
1,000 people?
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is
Try
used
stopping
that
90 million.
here. They use
Try
that as a
stopping 90 million.
Yeah, but 90 million people that are afraid that the government's going to take everything they have and break them, just like they did the people on January 6th.
Once 90 million people show up in Washington, D.C., they can't, if they even tried that, the White House would fall.
They're too
As
afraid to
the
do it.
Capitol.
They're
Huh?
too afraid to do it because of what happened on January 6th.
Unfortunately, yes, they are. That's why we are actually waiting for 2024 to happen. 2024 is going to be the linchpin for everything.
I am praying that it's going to get better. But what I'm saying is everyone I've talked to is that we could do it if we had the numbers. But the numbers are hard to get because so many people are afraid. Like me, I had to scrape and save and scrape and save and scrape and save to be able to leave where I was to come where I'm at now, where I feel safer because there's nothing here. It's barren, just like what he was said. They're running to the hills. Well, that's what I did. I raided the hills because I feel like at least I have a chance to maybe fight them off for a while, I guess. You know what I mean? I don't know why, but I was lucky enough to be able to do that. Okay. And I know a lot of people can't. And that's why I constantly tell people scrimp and save, put pennies in jars, whatever you stop smoking and save every dime from your cigarettes to use to, that's what I did. As soon as I quit smoking years ago, that's when I started saving my money. I started putting it in the bank, Every $6 pack of cigarettes, put in a jar. And that's what I did. And then every other little thing, stopped going out to McDonald's. I stopped doing a bunch of things, started working out, started to eat better, drink more water, no more soda pops. Money that I would have drank a soda pop, I put in a jar. So what I'm trying to say is everybody can do that, but it takes discipline and you have to work towards something that you want. If you want out, you can get out. You just have to focus on it and start working towards it. And if you aren't healthy enough to do it, then you have to have other people help you to be able to do it. If you're in a wheelchair, things like that, you got to have someone in your family that loves you enough that will help you do whatever you got to do so that you can get out of the situation that you're in. But the thing is, it's hard for a lot of people because they're afraid or they don't think they have the means to do these things. But the thing is, if people can work together, talk to each other in groups and have groups of people get together and say, okay, this is our weekly meeting and what can we do this week to try to get closer to our goal of being able to have a coalition enough to protect this little neighborhood that we're in. Things like that. That's the kind of stuff that I talk about. And yeah, that's why a lot of people don't like me on Spaces, because I'm always trying to come up with ideas for the people that are saying, oh, we can't do that. And I go, hey, I'm already working on a small group of people. I have chickens. I have eggs. They have a cow. They have pigs. So, okay, I will swap this many chickens for half a pig. See, things like that. That's bartering. And I'm trying to teach people bartering might end up being a way that we're going to be able to take care of ourselves. It is so funny is because when we had a few other people on one of our shows, we end up going right back to what I'm talking about right now. Remember, Bruce? Because it always goes back to that to me, because when you don't have a government you can trust, because you don't want to eat their food, just like what you said a while ago, or Orange Hat, about, well, they won't live, because if I go in the kitchen to make them something to eat, they're not going to make it through the meal, right? So you're not going to trust the government to supply you with food. You're going to want your own. You want to grow your own food. You're going to want to go out and pick berries. You're going to want to eat bark or whatever it is that you can get, pine needles to make tea with. There's tons of things, fishing on your own, whatever you can do, squirrels, deer. That I'm wanting to do all those things because I know I can take care of myself. I can feed myself. I know how to clean rabbit. I know how to clean squirrel. I know how to clean fish, and I can build a fire. I can do a lot of things, but you need more people that can do those things to sustain a family and then maybe a town, you see? And when you have a bunch of people running after you to have you help them, but none of them have any skills, how are you going to feed all these people? How are all these people going to get food? They're going to start beating each other up, stabbing each other, raping each other to take what they want from others because they can't sustain themselves.
Janet's getting me all turned on talking about bum fights of the future.
But you know what I mean? What I'm trying to say
Right.
is that's the way we're going to survive, is by us helping each other, getting our groups together, saying, okay, if this happens, this is what we do. If that happens, this is how we handle it. By having a group of people that all have different knowledges, and we get together, we make a team, and then next thing you know, we're an army, right? 90,000 of us strong, or 900,000 of us strong, to fight for what we believe is right. But we have to have enough people to do it, and we can do it, but we have to be talking to each other, sharing our information, and working together to sustain each other. Because while you're out there, like Orange Hat's out there thinking, okay, this is how we're going to set up the government. We need these people to do this. And then you got Bruce. He's in charge of the army. He's going to make sure they got bullets and they know how to use the guns. I'm going to go in and say, we're going to grow food. We're going to take care of our people so we can be strong and healthy to fight for what we need. You see what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say. That's all I'm trying to
because that's another thing that a lot of people, and that's why a lot of people won't stand against government, is because if you look at the Declaration of Independence,
we can do
the long train of abuse is lying.
Mm-hmm. But I believe
and
that
what it says at the end of that document, or at the end of that specific line, is it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and provide measures for their future security. That's the most important part of it, because say we do win a revolutionary war against the government. Say we do finally win against a tyrannical government. Okay, now who's in charge? The people who just overthrew it. They don't want the responsibility right now. Because they wouldn't know, or they're willing to fight against it. They don't know how to continue it.
Yeah, to rebuild. After you fought and took it away, now you got to rebuild society. So you have to have people from all different aspects to rebuild the cities and the food, the way that people are going to be able to survive. Who's going to take care of the babies? Who's going to take care of the wounded? Who's going to, you see, you have to have all these different people available that all have the same goal as you to rebuild and want to have a freedom again. But they all have to have all the skills that we need to rebuild the society. So that's why we all have to work together to rebuild it, because we all have different things to offer to the new society that we're going to have once we fight and take it back. So we have to have all this stuff ready to go when our time comes to be able to perform.
So many of these leftists believe that because they go along with us, they're going to be given powerful positions in the system. This is a technocracy. There's almost no managers in this. Almost nobody has power in the system except a very small group of technocrats who happen to be transhumanist. And you said something really astute a few weeks ago in a speech you gave, and you've also talked on your show, that all of this stems from their fear and denial of death.
So one of the things I find so striking about you, having watched you on and off over the years, and this must be a burden for you personally, but your ability to see people at a deeper level, or to see things in them that are not obvious to the rest of us. And I want to give a specific example. So there's a guy called Brian Stelter who had the media show on CNN. I first met Brian Stelter when he was a high school student or a first-year college student, because he would hang around the show I worked on at the time at CNN. This was 20 years ago at least. And I always thought he was awkward and weird and probably had a super creepy personal life, but I never took him seriously. There's a pretty famous clip, and I want to play it right now, of you critiquing Brian Stelter, and you take him way more seriously than I ever did, and I think you're right to. So this is a pretty famous clip of you on Brian Stelter.
Hell on earth.
He wants to run your life. He wants to control every aspect of your life because he knows he is a cowardly, degenerate sack of anti-human trash. I pledge before my heavenly Father that I will resist them every way I can. These people are the literal demon spawn of the pit of hell. Look at him. And you know what? He is better than you if you keep letting him run your life. He runs your kids. He runs the schools. He runs the banks. This guy, this spirit, this smiling, leering devil that thinks you can't see what he is your enemy. Period. All the narcissistic devil-worshipping filth. I see you, enemy. I see you, enemy. 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 You are my enemy. And I swear total resistance to you with everything I've got. Disingenuous, fake, false, broke back, twisted, a defiler, a betrayer, a backstabber, a devil. You don't think I don't see you, Stelter? I see you. You understand me? I know what you think of me and my family. I see you right back. You understand that? You understand that, Stelter?
I love it. I love it.
I've only watched that several hundred times. And I laugh every time, but I also, there's something to, if Brian Stelter had absolute power, would you and your family survive? Of course not. You wouldn't. You'd be, of course not, and neither would mine. So there's a lot that's true about what you said. How did you perceive that? The rest of us just made fun of him.
Now, once they started the censorship and deplatforming, remember back then they would deny it. Oh yeah, we're taking people off air, but it's not censorship. Now they admit, no, it's censorship. We're doing this for your own good. So he was really the face of that, and he was working for the head of CNN that was really in charge of it. It later came out. CNN currently is not in charge. They've handed it completely over to the Justice Department to quarterback, as Congress reported a few months ago with the documents. But at the time, Brian Stelter and his mini-me, Oliver Darcy, were going around calling up and harassing my sponsors, taking sponsors away. And they were going around and organizing big tech to take not just myself, but many other people offline. And so he was destroying our free speech. He was taking our sponsors.
But it's crazy. I just want to restate. You are not promoting race hatred. You're against race hatred. You never have promoted that, ever. You're not promoting violence. You've never called for violence. And you've never even called for breaking the law.
And so that's why there's so much anger there, because I remember the day I did that and a few other clips that went viral. I showed all the stuff he was doing, but then the media attacked me and just clicked it out of context, but still it reverberated with people because people were sick of the corporate legacy media. So people say, well, why is he so angry? Well, it's because he's literally trying to take us off air, literally taking our sponsors. I mean, the equivalent of the Vikings 1,000 years ago in England pulling up and burning a village down. And so there he is, all sweet and liberal and cackling and laughing, but he's really an agent of anti-American totalitarianism. And so he was the front man of that. And I wanted to just simply say,
well, you're right.
I see you. I know what you're doing. So people see it out of context and think, why are you being so mean to him? Well, I mean, he's literally trying to destroy my free speech, take me off air, and put my family on the street. So I'm pissed off at him.
What's interesting is, and I mean, I don't know if you want me to reveal this, but we had dinner in our barn last night and there were some drinks. And after dinner, you and my producer called Stelter on the phone. And what was so, and it was on speaker, so I listened to it. What was so interesting was, you know, you've been very clear in a very direct, pretty masculine way, I would say, about how you feel about Brian Stelter. There's not a lot of confusion about your views on Stelter after clips like that, which doubtless he's seen because he Googles himself compulsively. He was very kind of syrupy sweet with you.
And that's why I was sarcastic and told him I want to date him.
You did. Yeah. In fact, the exact line that you had was, Brian, I'm not usually gay, but I want you. Yeah. And he seemed a little bit, I'm not saying he's open to it or whatever, but he wasn't shocked by it.
And he's like, give me your phone number. Give me, I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And then he hit your producer, please give me his number right now. Let's
that was interesting.
But I was being silly with him. But there was also a line. He goes, oh, Alex Jones. I said, I want you to come on my show. He said, oh, you still got a show? And I went, no, you're the one that doesn't have a show.
Sorry, I said it's so.
Tell him the other line.
It's so boorish to like recount conversations people weren't witness.
It was funny though.
But you said, you know, you're off TV now, but you were a real star. I mean, not on CNN, but on my show. It was so good. Anyway, But what was interesting was if someone had talked about you that way and then called you late night after a couple drinks, you'd say, you know, up yours, pal. You know what I mean? Like buzz off, or I'm not taking your call. But he kind of sucked up to you. That's a very weird passive-aggressive posture.
Well, I've said a lot of really mean things about him and attacked him. And when I watch the clips out of context, I feel guilty. But he was going around with Oliver Darcy. They would brag on Twitter and literally hitting hundreds of my sponsors. And I say hundreds, I'd have like 20. They'd take them all. I get 20 more, take them all. This went on for years. So you go get a sponsor, you get them, they're doing great. He takes it away from you. And then he brags that him and Dart. I was taken off Twitter, not for the Sandy Hook stuff that came later that they focused on. Look it up. They had the former head of Twitter and the lawyer on Joe Rogan about 4 years ago. And Joe said, "Why did you ban Alex Jones?" The lawyer goes, "Okay, let me open my clipboard." She goes, "Here's why. He was mean to Oliver Darcy." So I'm at the Capitol. They're having censorship hearings. Sundar Pichai's there. I just confronted him in the hall.
Who runs Google.
And you guys are welcome to use that if you want. And then that was at the Senate. So now they were going over to a House meeting, and there's Oliver Darcy in the line. He gets to get in. I don't even get into a hearing where they didn't attack me. They'd attacked me at the last hearing, but I don't get to face my accuser. And so I get in his face. I don't threaten him, but I say, "You are an evil man. You're un-American, coming after my free speech, harassing my sponsors, trying to get me off the internet." And the last place I was on was Twitter. They'd held out. And so Jack Dorsey had held out. And so Jack Dorsey admitted, well, the last straw was I bullied Oliver Darcy. And so that's why I was deplatformed. Elon Musk thinks it was the Sandy Hook thing. And notice.
Do you know that in most cultures, bullying Oliver Darcy would be like a rite of passage? Like you couldn't, like that would be a positive good, right?
Well, but here's the thing. He's literally on Twitter taking my sponsors, calling for me to be silenced. So he's been attacking me, attacking my speech and my living. And then all I do is shove a camera in his face while he's waiting to go into the hearing for 5 minutes and say, "Man, you are un-American. You got some evil eyes." And I said, "You really look like a piece of slime." I mean, I told him that. And
Fair.
And so the point is, he's a man. He's a quote journalist in the arena. He goes around harassing people and stalking them financially and their free speech. He'd already bragged that he'd gotten me taken off all this other stuff and that he was instrumental, which he was. And then he can't take me saying, "Man, you're a jerk."
Right.
So
this is the classic posture. You know, "Stop hitting me," he says as he, fires a gun through your windshield. I mean,
exactly. They can dish it out, but they can't take it.
So what's the effect on you? And I don't mean even the lawsuits against you. And there was an effort to criminally indict you, I guess, just for having bad opinions or whatever.
A bunch of them, actually.
A bunch of them. Yeah.
They've had 4 grand juries I've had to respond to, subpoenas. My
When you've committed no crime, you're like one of the only people in media who's not ginning up race hatred, I would say, just to be totally clear, because it's very common to do that. You don't do that. So anyway, and then of course this $1 billion judgment against you for having naughty opinions, which is insane. I'm not even talking about that. I just mean, what's it like to spend 25, 30 years connecting the dots and seeing this slow moving storm come toward the country that you were born in? What effect does it have on you?
Since you use the analogy of a storm, it'd be like if I was 100 years ago before they had radar, and I've read about the famous flood 120-something years ago in Galveston that killed tens of thousands of people.
Oh, yeah, the hurricane, yeah.
Yeah, the hurricane. They didn't know. They didn't have radar, and so they didn't know. But there are the fishermen out there catching shrimp or whatever, and then all of a sudden here comes basically a tidal wave. And if I was one of those fishermen and I knew my children and my wife were on shore at school or work or whatever, and here comes a 40, 50-foot wave I know is about to kill them, I would not be thinking about myself watching this giant wave come in. I'd go, "Oh my God, my wife and kids are over there." And so it's not that I'm a hero. It's not even a selflessness. I realized that I was just out in front and ahead of some people in understanding this because of family and research and just things in my life that I saw that encouraged me to get involved in the media because I was aware of the globalists, some things that were going on because my uncle was high level.
Have a good night, lady.
Had some other family that worked in clandestine things. So I kind of grew up just around folks that knew what was really going on. And you're a kid, you don't really pay attention to it, but you kind of get that education. You don't know you're getting it. And so I've just been out front. So I would liken it to the old days when a dam would break and they didn't have radio to warn people, and the dam breaks and it's 20-foot wave coming down the valley, and you are down below the dam as let's say a lumberjack, and your wife and children are 2 miles down, and you see the dam break and you're about to drown. but I guarantee the last thought you're thinking is it's going to get my women and children. And that's really my grief. Is this is really draconian. This globalist great reset, new world order takeover is a post-industrial world, cut off the resources, 90% forced depopulation, breaking civilization by design, massive wars, famine. They've already cut off a third of the fertilizer in the last year worldwide. It's estimated that'll kill a couple 100 million people. The lockdowns worldwide, not the virus, the UN admits killed 80-something million extra people in the last 3.5 years. And so when the first world collapses, the third world dies. And then what's left of them floods us. And so the earth is being put into a countdown collapse right now. And so I'm like the fisherman when the tidal wave comes in, and I'm like, oh my God, my wife and children are about to die. And so I'm not really worried about me because I'm a man. I did this. I knew it was coming. I've been proven right. And I'm not happy I was proven right. I wish we could have gotten ahead of this and stopped it. Yeah, we have a lot of credibility now that people see that we were right. So maybe we can stop the next phase of it. But the globalists have gone from testing phase, beta test phase, into full operational now. And they say, read their writings, we are going to have a post-industrial world by 2030. We will have no personal cars by 2030. You will be eating bugs by 2030. And we will start the depopulation of 90% of the people by 2045. That is the official WF, official UN, official Club of Rome plan.
What do you mean the depopulation?
They want to bring the world population down to 500 million.
But I thought we were
Good luck
opposed
with
to
that.
genocide. No or no? I guess we're not.
Well, we're told now, don't have children, it's bad for the earth. And we're told all this, and Elon Musk is right and is a hero for pointing out all the actuaries show, if you don't have 2.1 children, a man and a woman, people go, well, a man and a woman can have 2.1. It's in the aggregate, folks, out of billions. If a country doesn't have 2.1, 2.2 replacement rate, then you don't have people to take care of the old folks, society collapses. And so Japan's 1.3, Italy's 1.3, they're done as cultures. America, without immigrant influx, is about 1.6. That's not viable. And I'm not just talking about white people only here, but white people are 7% of the world population, maybe 8. And so I would be sad if the last of the Eskimos were dying. I mean, I'm sad that the Japanese, within 100 years, there might be 20 million of them.
But just to my previous question about, and without getting too personal, but like, I mean, I feel a little bit enervated and down just hearing your dot connecting here. Like, what's the effect on you over 25 years? I mean, if you literally foresee 9/11 before it happens, and you did, and it can be proven, we just proved it. Like, what's that like to live with that weird ability?
Well, I mean, I know a specific clip. I specifically say, call the White House, tell them we know they're going to let Al Qaeda attack us, Bin Laden, and then take our rights. I say, call the White House. I put the number out, so I put my money where my mouth was, and that's the only time I ever said call the White House and tell them stop a particular event. I'm now saying we need to call the White House and say, you've let tens of thousands of military-aged men from the Middle East in. We know a lot of them are Hezbollah and Hamas. The FBI has confirmed that. And so when and if there's big terror attacks, which I believe will probably happen in America, we're not going to have Homeland Security get more funds and more power and grope us at the airports more. I want prison time for the agencies and groups that have allowed this. And I want Biden. I want Biden impeached now. Okay. That's why we got rid of McCarthy. It needs to happen. Leaving the border open when there is a clear and present danger of this going on, and when we're very close to war with Iran, we go to war with Iran, they're going to activate Hezbollah. Okay. And then they make Hamas look like choir boys. And so you want to hear a prediction here. It's a probability, not a pure prediction. But I mean, if we go to war with Iran, guaranteed sleeper cells activate. It'll make what happened in Israel look tame in comparison. I'm not lessening what happened there. So I'm simply, and then again, where's the logic? The government that allows that to happen should go to prison.
I agree.
But instead, like 9/11, they're going to get more power when it happens. Mark my words. So
you can't have guns because we let in foreign sleeper cells to kill you.
Exactly. And you asked the question. This has really taken a toll on me, not the fake lawsuits, not the weaponization, not the deplatforming. I was already getting exhausted 5-6 years ago. And when I married my second wife, who's amazing, I have 3 children with my previous wife, and one they're all great children, and one with her. We were in Hawaii getting married like 7 years ago. And I said to her, I want to just write books and make documentary films and maybe do an occasional podcast. At that time, I've been on air like 22 years, 6 days a week. 3 hours a day at least. And I said, I just don't want this burden, this big crew. I love the crew, but I don't want to do this anymore. I said, I want to move the country, and I want to just, because it's taking a physical toll to every day look at the stuff. And now I've gotten to the point, which even though I say don't let them break your will, don't let them demoralize you, that's because I understand the process. It's happened to me. Used to, I'd have hundreds of incredible stories and clips every day. I couldn't wait to expose the bad guys. Now I look at it once, I'm ready, I study it, and then half the time I get on air and I just go, let's just take calls, or I start talking about some fun story just because I mentally cannot sit there and stare into the abyss and stare at Biden or their press secretary that's meant to enrage us and demoralize us. And I think that's a defense mechanism that's healthy. So I think we all have to be balanced. I'm not asking people to only fight tyranny. I'm asking people to get prepared, get ready, but wake up as many people as you can, and then do whatever you have to stay sane, because we have record suicide, we have record depression, we have record drug abuse. This country has been attacked. And if you read deeper into the globalist writings, they admit they're doing it. And so we have to be aware of it. If you're aware of an attack and aware of a manipulation, it doesn't give you full immunity from it.
No, it doesn't.
But it gives you a buffer. Imagine people that don't know what's going on, and they really believe things are dangerous, things are bad, not because of the corrupt corporations that are running things, but because those evil people in the countryside don't want to be left alone. But that's what they're saying on the news. It's the people in the middle of nowhere that want to be left alone. They're the bad guys, and it's the 5-year-old kid that's white. They're really bad. They're all inherently really bad, and just this is a demonic assault, and it really is good versus evil. But the key part you raised earlier in previous shows that I mentioned that I didn't get into, because there's so many topics, is this: when you said we need to brood on death, you talk about a simpatico or a synchronicity or a weird moment. I don't usually watch your show when it first releases one day, because I'm usually at work or doing stuff till night. But I'll get up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, hours before my wife and daughter get up, and I will start, get on the desktop, start doing research. And when I'm reading news and sending stuff to the crew for the show, I'll almost always go click on your show to watch it. And that's the go-to thing I'll have on the background. And I said, well, I'm not going to click on the show. I'm going to click on the speech you gave a few weeks ago. And you talked about brooding on death. And I'm sitting there that week, literally thinking about the fact that we've got to be humble. We've got to be thankful. We've got to realize that there's an infinite universe and consciousness, and that focusing on what made humanity, focusing on the fact that we are spiritual beings, but that this life is finite. These incredible experiences, all the people we've met and known, and all the ancestors before us that did incredible things and went through hell and were tough as nails to get us here, really ties us into our ancestors and the epigenetic instinctive knowledge that really makes us a colony or hybrid creature of all of our ancestors. We have a soul, we have a spirit, we have our genetic imprint that they've proven mathematically is multidimensional, even above the third dimension. So we have a personal spirit, but really we also have a collective bodysuit that is a collection of all of our ancestors, and just the beauty and the wonderment and the spectacularness of that, dwelling on how incredible that is, but also leaning into eternity and leaning in to this body and this incarnation. And I'm not saying reincarnation, incarnation.
Hey, Janet.
Yeah.
So magical.
Okay.
And that also that
Orange Hat put in a private chat that he needs to be up in a few hours. So
yeah, he's got to go. Well, thank you for joining us and giving us some of your great information, which I thought was great, because it gave other people a good perspective of what we're going to have. We got to have different levels of people ready and willing to step in and take over these roles that we may not have, people to fill. And I'm glad that you are you're a young man that can see the different steps of things that we're going to have if we end up having a collapsed
system.
Government. Yeah, if our government collapses, we've got to step in and take over and rebuild it. And we got to have people from different levels and different understandings of what we need to survive. And we do
Yep.
need a government. We need people to be in charge to make sure everybody's doing their jobs. We need a boss. That's the way it is,
Yeah.
but we need that. But thank you
Yeah.
so much. I really appreciate it.
Very welcome, Janet.
You
You guys have a good night.
You
Take care,
too.
Orange Hat.
All right. Take it easy, folks.
Good night.
Yep.